The Book of Genesis Part 61. The Book of Genesis Part 61. James Gunn. Faith and Fear Chapter 32:1-2. What a strange experience life is. It is composed in great measure of faith and fear, faith in God and fear of man. This period of Jacob's pilgrimage provides an ample illustration of this fact. His faith is recorded in verses 1-2, and his fear in verses 3-23. His faith. It is known in the light of New Testament truth that angels are ministering spirits sent forth to minister on behalf of those who shall be heirs of salvation, Hebrews 1 verse 14. When Jacob, because of his own deception and sin, became a fugitive from his father's house, a vision of God attended by angels was given him, Genesis 28 verses 1-3. He began his wanderings from home under the observant eye of angels. This chapter informs us that after over 20 years of absence, as he starts his return, the angels of God are in very close attendance. A careful reading of this passage reveals instruction in regard to these spiritual creatures and their ministry. On several occasions in Jacob's life, we have noticed that whatsoever he sowed morally, he also reaped, Galatians 6 verse 7. Here, we further notice that the Lord is long-suffering toward him, 2 Peter 3 verse 9, for his mercy is from everlasting to everlasting, Psalms 103 verse 17. While in government God deals in severity, through grace, righteousness and peace are blended. Jacob, therefore, is spared much of the discipline that his carnality merited. This, of course, is true in the case of all of God's children. The Lord is merciful and gracious, slow to anger, and plenteous in mercy, Psalms 103 verse 8. The circumstance, it appears quite certain that Esau felt the day of revenge had come. He recalled the wicked craftiness of his brother in securing the patriarchal blessing, and the advantage he seized in order that he purchase the birthright at such a low cost. With burning hatred in his heart, Esau, having heard of Jacob's return, went out to meet him. Esau was a man of the field, a hunter accustomed to the use of arms. Jacob was a quiet, home-loving individual with no knowledge of battle strategy, consequently, defenseless before an attack from Esau's well-trained and well-equipped men. The Lord's host, Jacob's eyes must have been anointed with heavenly eye salve. We read, the angels of God met him. And when Jacob saw them, he said, this is God's host. There is a precious title used for the Lord which occurs frequently in the Old Testament and twice in the New, the Lord of hosts. When Joshua, at a much later date, was about to invade the land of Canaan, a heavenly apparition approached him. This person Joshua challenged, art thou for us, or for our adversaries? In reply he was told, nay, but as captain of the host of the Lord am I now come. What a captain! What a host! Obviously, the host of angels was for defensive purposes. Two hosts invaded Canaan, the host of Israel and the invisible host of angels with their captain who had made himself visible to Joshua. The psalmist considered this mighty angelic host for protective purposes, for he wrote, God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. The Lord of hosts is with us, the God of Jacob is our refuge, Psalms 46 verse 1 and 11. The Lord Jesus understood their ministry in a similar manner. In the dark hour of his need, he said, thinkest thou that I cannot now pray to my Father, and he shall presently give me more than 12 legions of angels? Matt 26:53. The title the Lord of Hosts, the Lord of Sabaoth, KJV, occurs twice in the New Testament, the first time, in connection with the defense and preservation of his ancient people Israel, Romans 9 verse 29, the second time, in regard to the vindication of his people of the New Covenant, the Church, who are oppressed by the wealthy of earth, Jas 5:4. Such, then, was the revelation of God's defensive power to poor distraught Jacob. Mahanaim, and when Jacob saw them, he said, this is God's host, and he called the name of that place Mahanaim. The meaning of Mahanaim is two hosts or two bands. He apprehended that, while his own camp was only a defenseless group, God's guardian host was about it. By faith Jacob appropriated this divine provision. Centuries later, under distressing circumstances, David expressed Jacob's sentiments in poetry, the angel of the Lord encampeth round about them that fear him, and delivereth them, Psalms 34 verse 17. This place where Jacob met the angels of God may have been considered a holy place by his descendants. It is mentioned as on the border of both Gad and Manasseh, and that connects it with the brook Jabbok. It was allotted for an inheritance to the tribe of Gad, and a city was built upon it. There are two interesting references to Mahanaim, one in the history of David, the other in the writings of Solomon. It was to Mahanaim that David fled from before Absalom. If ever a king needed to resort to the place of two hosts, that king was David. Like his forefather, Jacob, his camp was weak and humanly speaking defenseless, but, like him, he too proved that the angel of the Lord encampeth round about them that fear him. God revenged David with his few followers, and slew wicked Absalom. Solomon likened his beautiful bride to Mahanaim. This will be seen in the marginal reading of the Song of Solomon 6 verse 13, "What will ye see in the Shulamite? As it were the company, dances, expressions of joy, of two armies." Since it generally is accepted that the bride in this wonderful Song of Solomon is a picture of the church, there is a great lesson for her here. No matter how strong and militant she may appear, even as an army, she cannot stand alone. In all her conflict against the world, the flesh, and the devil, she needs the second army, the host of the Lord of hosts. The church would feel feeble in itself, but his presence would bring discipline to his own, it is true, but destruction to the enemy.